Okay, welcome to the Opportunities with EJD webinar. I mean, I've not, we've had a group for some years, like I think since 2021 or so. I'm not even sure if we've had any webinar in the past. I just felt usually September to December is a very busy time for scholarship applications, especially in the United States. So I feel it would be very good to to bring this up at this point in time. So I put out a question, yes, to be sure that only people who are really serious minded are going to attend this. And what you see on the screen is actually a word cloud I made from the responses I collated from the questions people asked. So these are like the bigger the word is, the more important. I mean, the more often the word occurred from what people wanted to learn. So of course, scholarship is one of the key words. Fellowship is also there. Then you see things like master, you see knowledge, you see expectation, you see graduate, you see application. So abroad, of course, international, secure, adequate guidelines. So somebody wants to get adequate guidelines, and that's exactly why we're here. Relating research, seeking gain, depth, durability. So these are like some words that really came up a lot in the responses, in the questions we gathered. Okay, so having said that, let me just go straight, because it's just like I said, it's actually comprehensive, because the aim is to look at the idea of scholarships starting from when you are born. Some people get scholarship even from the point of birth, right? It's possible, though it's not so, it may not be so common, but some people actually get scholarships right from when they are born. I think there'll be cases of children born in a particular place, and maybe somebody is just and the person is like, oh, this is my child, and I'm going to take care of this child till university level. That's some kind of scholarship, right? So that's why I said it's comprehensive. So every kind of scholarship you can think about as much as possible. Okay, so having seen the generality of what our expectations are for today, so let's go straight into the stuff. Of course, it's going to be interactive, so get ready to ask your questions. Anything that is not clear to you, you're going to ask questions afterwards. So the next thing I'm going to put up is the slide for today's event. And I intentionally put the things on the first screen so that, I mean, if somebody might be wondering, what authority does this guy have to be telling us about scholarships? I've actually benefited a lot from scholarships right from my primary school days. I remember, interestingly, I attended local authority primary school. I don't know if anybody here attended such a school. I attended local authority primary school in Najara, Iluda, Badagry, and well, I've had a couple of funding for whatever reason. By the way, I don't come from a family of, maybe like we don't have. I come from a family where they say, people talk about being born with a silver spoon, right? I'm not sure if what I was born with was a wooden spoon or anything like that. Maybe there was not even spoon. So that's the kind of place I'm coming from. So, and I can't be a PhD today if not for the opportunities I've had at getting scholarships. The earliest scholarship I would remember I got was when I was in that same early I told you about, right? In When I was in primary five. I mean, oh, okay, interesting. Somebody attended local authority primary school. Which one is yours? Is it Ajara Badagry, or there are all kinds of local authority primary school? You mean Badagry Hospital Road, or which one? So I mean, thankfully there's somebody who here also attended the kind of school I attended, so the person can relate. So all right, David, you want to say something?
Yeah, I actually attended a local trade school, right? One along General.
Around exactly, lovely, good to have you here. Then nice. Okay, so I mean, there's some
Hello.
at least you can relate with what I'm talking about. That kind of school where you have students who even have their short,
Of course, I can relate.
some don't have shoes and things like that. Of course, I don't remember not having shoes, right? But I mean, that's the kind of background, and there was no way. If actually from age 5, I started living with an uncle who, I mean, tried his best. A tailor, he tried his best, sent me to primary school, and then by the time I was done with primary school, he started having his own children, and it wasn't like he had so much money, right? So he was beginning to get tired of sending me to school. So I was going to, interestingly, in fact, I'd resumed in his shop, to learn tailoring and all that. But something happened in primary six. that was in 1995. There was this competition that started in Lagos State called Annual Merit Award, organized by the State Primary Education Board. So the deal was each school was going to send their best students. I know in primary, most of the primary schools, right, the best students are usually the senior prefect boys, and this, like that. So I was the senior prefect boy. So I was the one that represented my school. Interestingly, we competed at all the 50 primary schools in Badagry local government. Then we competed for the award, and I was the best in Badagry local government, right? And of course, there was also a competition at the school level. So interestingly, our school, local authority primary school, Ajara, was also the best at that level. So after that, the best students in each of the 20 local governments of Lagos State back then, we went to Lagos to compete, at the state level. Interestingly, I was also the best in the state. My local authority primary school, Ajara Badagry, was also the best in Lagos State. And from there, so instead of, I mean, I told you I had already resumed for tailoring in my uncle's shop, and that it was looking like there was no way I was going to go to secondary school or anything beyond primary school. So, but because of that, the whole competition and award thing. So there was a whole lot of noise. I began to get a lot of attention, and so at that point it was looking like there was no way my uncle could hide me anymore. So at that point I had individuals saying, "Oh, I'm going to give you 5,000 naira." At least I remember two people like that. The current Oba of Iworajido, Oba Adele Kosoko, then he was competing to be Lagos State governor. So I remember I came to LA, then he promised 5,000 naira, which I think he fulfilled that later when I got into Badagry Grammar School. And then there was this major, is it? I'm not sure. It is Major Amusu. I've forgotten the first name. His first name, maybe it's Adekunle or something. I'm not sure. So I remember those two people. Then of course, then the award itself. I remember Macmillan Publishers gave 7,005. I'm talking about 1995. So 5K was not chicken change at all. By all those times, right? So it was like tons like that. I began to enjoy like right from that primary school level. Then I got into Badagry Grammar School, and then I was getting bursary from Badagry government because of that performance, right? So then I went on. So after secondary school, right, I was this person who wrote jam. I wrote jam 5 times. Then in the process of writing jam, and jam was jamming me. I was passing, right? But that back in the days, things weren't that easy because I mean, I come from this background where we don't believe in exam malpractice. And the best I could do, I was getting maybe 240 something, 217, 219. And those things weren't just good enough for the courses I was going to study. So the final admission I got into university was in Futa in 2005. And that was because post-UTME had started. So you could now prove yourself beyond what you could do at JAM level. So that was why I was able to get in. So, I remember when I finished from Badagry Grammar School, right? Since I couldn't get into the university, I finished secondary school like 2021, right? And I got into university in 2001 rather, sorry. I finished Badagry Grammar School 2001 and I got into Futa 2005. So the 4 years in between, because I was just writing German, I was just getting, hit back. So I had to go and do a national diploma in marine engineering in Victoria Island. So I mean, all the while, it was not my kind of place because, of course, in the kind of school, in Badagry Grammar School had this very high standard. And when you left there, you're going to Unilag. In fact, I was going to Unilag or no other school. In fact, in SS2, I was actually planning to go to the United States because I had these friends who were talking about SAT and TOEFL. SAT is Scholastic Aptitude Test. It's more like GRE for somebody going to do undergraduate studies in the US. And then there's test of English as a foreign language, all of that. But I mean, we're preparing together and everything. But when it was time to pay, then SAT was $24 and TOEFL was $110. And I mean, I wasn't even sure if my parents could not even sponsor me to a Nigerian university. So because of the cost, I just had to perish the thought. But one lesson I learned is that while you're trying to go abroad, don't tie your life down because there are people who just sit down. They're like, oh, I just want to go abroad, nothing else. So in the process of trying to go abroad and it wasn't working, I kept making sure I kept moving as much as possible. Like I kept, I did the diploma thing. After diploma, I got into FUTA for bachelor's degree. Though I wanted to go abroad, but since abroad was not abroad, as they say, I had to just keep moving. So whatever it is, as far as wherever you are, just keep making sure you're doing the best with what you have so that at the end of the day, it is what all of those in all the development, personal development you're making that is probably going to add up. Like finally, when I got PhD to Japan, right? It was if I had stopped at secondary school level and I didn't get a diploma or get a bachelor's degree, and if I even went ahead to get a master's degree, in fact, it was so serious that at some point I even got I already started my PhD in 2005, but my mind had already moved because I just kept moving like that. So finally, I was able to get a PhD in Japan based on the master's degree I got in Nigeria. So whatever it is, just keep rising, keep developing yourself, and the opportunity will definitely come because the whole scholarship journey, it's not sweet. It's not that easy at all. Now, the reason why I highlighted all the awards, all those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah, 5 awards there is because of how strategic they were in my journey. So there are so much more. I've told you some that I didn't even list here, right? So I remember uh, I went for when I finished diploma in marine engineering in the Federal College of Fisheries and Marine Technology, Victoria Island, Lagos. When I finished from there, right, I I went for a competition called Flying High on NTA back in the days. I think the competition stopped in 2005 or so. So I mean, it stopped around that time. I think it still showed a bit up to 2006 or seven. I'm not sure, but I remember the last set of competitions were held in 2005. So in that competition, I just went there to clap for people because then I just finished diploma. Most people that got on the program were bachelor's degree holders or at least undergraduates. But went on the program, and so the first stage is you compete at the week level. You meet three people in your group. So three people will compete in groups like that. So the best person in each of the three groups will now meet to compete that's at the weekly level, three people will compete. So the best at the weekly level will go to the month level and compete. So the best at the month level will now go to the quarterly level. So I was the best in my week level, and that gave me an Akira TV, which is in my house in Badagry. I never put on that TV for one day till tomorrow. Then the month as the month winner, the prize in 2005 was 100,000 naira. So that 100,000 naira, it is from that 100,000 naira I paid my first school fees in Futa in 100 level. That was the 100K that I settled my admission stuff from that money. That's why I put this here because it was really strategic. It was very timely. So then in second in 200 level, right? I was teaching home lessons because of course there was actually almost no money was coming from home. If any money was coming at all, it was nothing that could help so much. So because of that, I already knew right from when I was doing my diploma, right? I was teaching around Victoria Island, home lessons, tutorial center. There's a place called Ultimate Tutors in 1004 Estate. I taught there. I taught maths majorly. Maybe sometimes did I get to teach physics? Mostly maths, and all that. So like that. So first year money from Flying High on NCA 100K. Second year home lesson, but by second year that was when I got EPNL undergraduate scholarship. So that's actually ELF Petroleum Nigeria Limited. So I got that scholarship when 200 level was almost over, but the scholarship actually started counting from 200 level. So they paid all the backlog. So and the pay then was like 150,000 naira per year. So I'm saying all this so that whatever level you are, even if you are just entering university, you can actually there's a scholarship for everybody. That's it. That's my slogan. There's actually a scholarship for everybody, no matter who you are, whether you are in year one or year two. And of course, what I tell people who are just getting into the university is that if you're very serious and you can get a minimum of 3.5 or upwards. In fact, the higher the CGPA, the better. Especially if you can get like a first class, so you can get you can get scholarship. I mean, I have mentees who I told things like that when they were coming out of secondary school, and one of them just graduated. In fact, probably is going to be the best graduate student for the next convocation, right? And by the time he was in 200, 300 level, he was already he was getting like 500K scholarship every year from different sources. So all those opportunities are there no matter what the level you are. So I was getting Elf Petroleum Nigeria undergraduate scholarship. Then at that point, to Futa, where I did my undergraduate studies, also had this scholarship so if you are the best student in your class for like a session or so, like if your CGPA for the 2 semesters is the best in your department, so you would get this funding. So I think I got this one like for 2 years, 2007, 2008. The scholarship wasn't consistent, and I think it was discontinued at some point. Then in final year, in final year, I applied for this Federal Government of Nigeria scholarship, Federal Scholarship Board. if some of you might know that. So I applied for that. So I got that. So it was like my parting gift computer. So with that, so I was able to, I think it was from that money I made my first international passport because, of course, we are planning to go abroad and things like that. Although that didn't happen that easily. So the whole scholarship journey can be quite torturous. So you can see, finally, I finished university in 2010, but I only got PhD scholarship in 2017 to study PhD in mathematical biology in Japan. So I graduated from PhD in 2020. That's why I actually put this here so you can see whatever level you are at, there's some kind of scholarship there for you. And that's the essence of this webinar today. So, and by the way, if you're not already on the opportunities with EJD group, you may want to indicate because they will share all kinds of opportunities, scholarship opportunities, job opportunities, and things like that. Okay, so let me move on. So again, we are talking about scholarships and fellowships. The question is, what is a scholarship and what is a fellowship? And from Oxford Languages Dictionary, like if you Google and if one of the definition you can find for scholarship is that it is actually a grant or payment made to support a student's education, and it is awarded on the basis of academic or other achievement. So most of the time, scholarships are awarded based on academic achievement. But of course, there are other reasons why scholarships are awarded. Like in foot, I know a couple of scholarships that are awarded to indigent students. Of course, academic performance is still a big deal there. So if you are from a poor background and you find it difficult to pay your school fees, and you are doing well academically, then you can also get this. So in that case, academic performance and financial constraints can be it. Then, of course, if you go to places like the United States, there are things like sports scholarship, music scholarship. So if you are talented in playing a particular sport, people like Toby Lobamuso, I think she must have got a sports scholarship because she finished. I guess she's finished. She finished now from University of Texas El Paso (UTEP). So she was. I guess I'm not sure. I guess must have been on a sports scholarship. So, and what that means is that you get paid to play in the school team while studying a course of your choice. So that's a sports scholarship. There might be something like there are things like music scholarship and different kind of scholarships like that. But the most important basis for scholarships is actually academic. Okay, talking about fellowships, right? In our context, fellowships are quite similar to scholarships. So fellowships are just like scholarships, except that it may not just be for academic purposes. Now it may be for leadership, as we're going to see later. Maybe for maybe for international developmental efforts and things like that. All right. So what are sources of scholarships? You know most of these things already. Of course, governments. Okay, individuals can give scholarships. I already told you. When I was living my primary school back in the days, I got scholarships from individuals. Like the current Oba of OwEJD in Badagry, Obadele Kosoko. Then I remember one Major Amosu. I forgot, maybe I didn't Amosu, I'm not sure now. Then so from organizations too, I also told you how I got some scholarship from uh, Macmillan Publishers. Macmillan Publishers, those people that make textbooks. So I remember I got 7,005 from them in 2005 for that primary school competition we did. Then of course government scholarships. I also told you when I got into Badagry Grammar School, I got scholarship. I was on a bursary from the Badagry local government. Though it was not a regular, but at least I got something from there. And I've also told you how I got Elf Petroleum Nigeria Limited. That's an organization. So you can have individuals like that. You can have organizations like churches. You can have you can have foundations like Ford Foundation and different people like that. And then you have governments, maybe local government, state government, or federal government. Okay, those are some sources of scholarships and fellowships. Now, let's talk about types of fellowships and types of scholarships and fellowships, right? So there you have pre-tertiary institution scholarships. So I just lumped everything together. Any kind of scholarship you get before you get into a higher institution, that's what I call pre-tertiary institutions. So these ones are awarded to excellent students in primary and secondary or high schools. They are very uncommon, right? But they exist. Like sometimes maybe Calbec can organize a competition, and then any student that emerges the best, maybe in primary or secondary school, so they can promise that they are going to send you they'll fund your education up to bachelor's degree. That's like a pre-tertiary institution scholarship. So I know there's maybe Science Teachers Association of Nigeria or NNPC. I know they used to have some scholarship maybe for primary school students, and some of the awards may just be that they will send you to other levels of education. Though these are not so common. From undergraduate scholarships are a bit more common than pre-tertiary institution scholarships. For instance, I remember when I was in SS2, I believe, in 2000, I was part of. I went for Jets competition in Enugu State, and I remember some of I wasn't part of the top four or something, but I remember the best male student and the best female student or so. They got scholarship from, I think, was it from Shell Nigeria Limited, for the sponsorship of their degrees, of their bachelor's degree. So I mean, they got that even before getting into the university. That's so a very, although it is undergraduate scholarship, but they got it in secondary school based on their performance in a competition. So I also know that Shell, I think they organize some kind of football competitions, and from there too, they can also give people this kind of scholarships. So talking about undergraduate scholarships now, these are awarded based on high cumulative grade point average. Now, the fact remains that one of the key things that matters seriously in your pursuit of scholarships is a very strong CGPA, very strong CGPA. Of course, there, just like I keep saying, there's a scholarship for everybody, whether you finish with 2-2 or third class or fourth class or anything. I've seen people who finished with third class who even got scholarship for PhD. The only thing is that it's not as no scholarship is easy, number one. So, but the higher your CGPA, the easier it will become. So, but there's definitely a scholarship for everybody. The only thing is that if you don't have the first class, all of that, you need to do some extra stuff, which I'm going to talk about as we move on. So, undergraduate scholarships are awarded based on high cumulative grade point average. So if you have somebody who is going into 100 level, one of the best advice you can give them is, see, there are many scholarships waiting for you. Just make sure you hit the CGPAs very hard. In fact, of course, from 3.5 upwards, you can get some scholarships, but it's even better if you have like 4.0 upwards. So, for instance, I know Lagos State has bursary and scholarship. So, if you have 3.5 upwards, you are qualified for bursary. If you have 4.0 upwards, you have qualified for scholarship, which can be like a wide gap. While somebody who is getting bursary is getting 100K, the scholarship person is getting like 200K. So you can see your classmate, but somebody is getting double your amount because of their CGPA. So if anybody is always just, or anybody is going to ever listen to this, who is just getting into the university. So it's very important, especially if for people who just wrote jump, who are going for the next admission. If you have people like that, share this video with them. Let them know that there are a lot of opportunities waiting for them if they can just hit their CGPAs at least get 4.0 over 5. Of course, the classic me will say go for a first class, get 100 over 100 in all your courses, and that way all the 5 dots will just fall in place. And this is very possible. The person I told you about earlier that might just be best graduate student full time in the next convocation, he finished with 4.96 over 5.00. So these things are really possible. There was somebody finished from Unilag a couple of years ago with 5.00 CGPA from the University of Lagos. So it's very possible. So sometimes the impossibility we see is because of our mindset. We just feel, oh, university is so hard. So for instance, I was very used to getting 100 over 100 in the university, in secondary school, in Badagry Grammar School. So, but I took that mindset to FUTA, and at least once I made, read one. Yeah, that was John Bull with our finished with 4.96. You know him now. So, so in FUTA too, like, people will tell you that, oh, is it possible to get 100 over 100 in the university? Because I had that mindset that, see, they will tell you the maximum marks obtainable is the maximum marks obtainable is 100, right? So why can't I get the maximum mark obtainable? And because of that mindset, I remember in MTS 203, linear algebra 1, I got 100 over 100 in that course, like test 30 over 30, exam 70 over 70. So that talks about mindset. So most of the things you have found impossible is probably because you feel that, oh, that thing is not, it can't work. So I think we should remove that thing from our mind. Anything is possible as far as you can imagine it. So at that level, right, you have, like I told you, I got a Elf Petroleum Nigeria Limited scholarship. So then there's NNPC, there's Chevron, there's ADAX, there's MTN, there's Mobile, there's Federal Scholarship Board. That's the government thing. Now, one thing is that most of the times, most of these oil companies, they don't like you to they don't want you to combine more than one. So, like, if you have a scholarship from an oil company, another oil company will not want to give you scholarship. So it's better once you have an oil company scholarship, if you are still an undergraduate, then you can think of other non-oil company scholarships. Then you can get an EPNL scholarship, for instance, and then you get MTN scholarship. Or maybe, I remember this person I talked about, he got, I don't know, maybe he got an oil company scholarship. Maybe it was ADAX or Chevron, I'm not sure. Then he also got one from an individual, that's a senator representing his area. So, okay, somebody's Ridwan is complaining that I did not give him. Now they don't give you 100 in a course. You get it. I wasn't given 100 in MTS 203. I got it. Okay. So 100 is, oh, okay. You think it's not possible. If you still have some courses to write, it is still possible, you know. So I did not deny you 100%. I gave you what you got, you know. At least you got 98. I think you got 98 or 99 in that course, you know. So it's not like I intentionally did that. I'm very objective. I think I even gave you your script. So undergraduate scholarships, so I've told you all this. So individuals can give it, maybe a senator representing a senatorial district can give you a scholarship. Yeah. Okay, Adepoju David Ayomide got MTN scholarship last year. Lovely, lovely. And it's currently, you are in second year. Very good for you. Thank God you are here. So it means you can get so much more. So you have got MTN, you can go on for NNPC, Chevron, or ADAX. Although sometimes maybe they can restrict it to 100 level or 200 level, but it doesn't matter. Just keep. I think one big thing is getting information. I think I'm going to emphasize that as we move on. So that's undergraduate scholarship. Then apart from undergraduate scholarship, as you move on, you can then be talking about graduate or postgraduate scholarships. Now, as you are moving higher, these things become more common. You know, tertiary institution scholarship is not that common, but undergraduate scholarships is a bit more common because you have all these companies all over the place trying to, you know, do community corporate social responsibility, and they want to fund people's education and things like that. Then of course you have graduate or postgraduate scholarships. Of course, in America they use the word graduate. What we call postgraduate in Nigeria, that's what they call graduate in America. So it's still the same. So these are mostly awarded for advanced studies. So you have finished your bachelor's degree or you have finished your master's degree, you know, and you want to now maybe study abroad. Even in Nigeria too, you can get scholarship. I remember Federal Scholarship Board still awards scholarship to people in studying in Nigeria. Of course, sometimes politics or, you know, anyhowness can just come and affect some of these government things. At some point, I really got scared of government funded scholarship because you can't be sure of what's going to happen next. Another leader can come tomorrow and just cancel it, you know, all those kind of stuff, you know. So then of course you have Next, which I got. Of course, I'm very emotional about Next because that was why I got, like, and it changed my life literally. So Next is Ministry of Education, Science, Sports, Culture, and Technology. That's a ministry in Japan. So, and you know, they have the scholarship for people across the world. And the recommended CGPA if you want to apply for next is minimum of 4.43. That's my, I mean, minimum of 4.3. That's my personal recommendation. It's not like if you have 4 points. Of course, if you have less than 4 points, maybe you don't even have to worry, you know, because it's really competitive. I remember in my set, we were told when we were given the summary, like 400 or 450 of us applied across Nigeria, and then 70 of us were invited. You know, and the 70 were invited based on our CGPAs mostly, and the way we filled the form. So the 70 of us were invited to Abuja for a test. Then we wrote the test. Out of the 70 of us, 18 of us made it to the interview. Then after the interview, 8 of us finally made it. And that was the set that we had, one of the set where they had the largest number of people. Normally, maybe they used to take 6 or 4. Can you imagine, out of 400, only 8 were finally taken? That's like one over, that's like 20%. Is it up to 20%? Something like that. And sometimes it's even worse than that. So these things are highly competitive. So, but of course, interestingly, there are scholarships to where they don't care so much about your high CGPA. A scholarship like Chevening scholarship, or even if you finish with a 2-2 or third class, and if you can just do postgraduate studies, maybe you can find a way and get a master's, and then you now get a very strong master's result, and then you also increase your, maybe your publication, you now have it tight, it can still cover up. At least I know somebody who finished with a 2-2 from Ekiti State University, I believe, who then finally did his master's. So starting from his master, he started getting all these opportunities because, I mean, research-wise, it was very solid. And then he even got a split-side PhD program to the UK and all that. So, I mean, all hope is not lost if you did not finish the first class or 2-1. The only thing is that you just need to get all the necessary information you need to get to be on point, right? So, so there's Federal Scholarship Board. They send people abroad too. You know, there's MEX. That is the German type of, that is just like the German version of Next. So, and the beautiful thing about Next and that, for instance, is that I'm not sure about that, but I know of Next. So for Next, right, once you get the Next scholarship visa, you know, some people can get a scholarship and be denied visa, although it's not so common. But some people still get denied. But once you get a Next scholarship, they will do the visa themselves. They will pay for the flight to at least your flight to Japan, and by the time you're done, although the flights in between, you mean they don't care, they may not worry about that. But of course, if you're going for a conference, your department or school can pay for you, things like that. So I think that is like that. Then there's also Korea Government Scholarship, KGSP. I think it's Korea Government Scholarship. I've forgotten what that piece. Something like maybe somebody can Google it and let me know. So KGSP. There's Commonwealth Scholarship. Yeah, Commonwealth Scholarship. Interestingly, Commonwealth Scholarship is in different forms. So there's this Commonwealth Scholarship that is shared Commonwealth scholarship. That means so the government and the university contribute funds to sponsor Commonwealth countries that were formerly colonized by Britain, or countries that have agreed to be part of Commonwealth, like I think Cameroon and Rwanda are now part of the Commonwealth, though they were not colonized by Britain. So then you also have this. So in that case, you can go to the UK for that. Of course, there's also other Commonwealth scholarships where you have to come from a Commonwealth country. Nigeria is a Commonwealth country, by the way. And from that Commonwealth country, you can now go and study in another Commonwealth country. I know a couple of people who, got Commonwealth scholarship to study in Sri Lanka, to study in Jamaica. I mean, I know at least one person in each of those places. So there's Erasmus Mundus. So Erasmus Mundus is also very cool. Interestingly, they have a wide array of courses. So most of my maths students who finished from FUTA, right? I have a lot of them going on this Erasmus Mundus, and it's usually like a pathway to. So once you go through Erasmus Mundus, it's easier. Now, you see, one thing about this whole traveling thing is everybody wants to go to the US or UK, Australia, Canada, and all those places. Sometimes, if you can't go straight, once you go to Korea, for instance, or you go to Europe, or you go to Germany, or you go to somewhere first, once you have a degree in any of these places, it is now easier to go to that's your dream US, UK, Canada, and all that. So sometimes don't kill yourself over the US. Now, for someone like me, I just believe it's God that they don't want me to go to the US, because I wrote GRE, I got 311 over 340. Of course, maybe that's not so high, but I mean I got that, and I think it's not a bad score at all. I just feel that it's good. God who does not want me to go there. But the thing is, if your eyes on the US or any of those places, of course, the opportunities are more in a place like the US, right? But if the US is not US in, like they say, you can actually go to Germany, go to Europe, go to Korea, come to Japan, wherever, and then finally, and the appeal of these countries I mentioned is because they are English speaking, so things are easier. You don't have to learn a new language. But of course, for people like us who really enjoy learning languages, so we don't even mind, right? So at some point, France was my dream country, So then, of course, there's AIMS. AIMS is strictly for mathematics. So AIMS is African Institute of Mathematical Sciences. So they have branches across Africa. I know the first one was in South Africa. Then later they branched out from there's one in South Africa, then Ghana, Senegal, Tanzania, Cameroon, and then later I think Rwanda must be the latest center of AIMS. The interesting thing with Rwanda is that Rwanda is even now they are coming up with things like artificial intelligence and machine learning. Like you can get a master's or PhD in either artificial intelligence or machine learning in Rwanda. In fact, one alumnus of AIMS is here. AIMS Rwanda, I believe. That's Omojarabi, Professor Modulus. He's here. So good to have you here, bro. Yeah, I saw him. I think I saw his request to come in. Yeah, he's still here. Yeah, yeah. Maybe he's going to share his experience with us at some point. Thanks for being here. So AIMS Rwanda is really doing crazy stuff when it comes to artificial intelligence and machine learning. Now there's Schlumberger Foundation. Now I highlighted this because Schlumberger is basically for women. So if you're a woman in science, Schlumberger is for you. Yeah, Omojarabi got AIMS in Rwanda in 2022. So he did his program there. So Schlumberger is basically for women, and I think they fund people for either PhD or postdoc, something like that. Then, of course, in the US, you have assistantships. So sometimes what you are going to get may not be called a scholarship per se. It might be an assistantship. And what assistantship simply means is that, so the assistantships can be research assistantship or graduate assistantship or administrative assistantship. Now, if you're a research assistant, for instance, it means that you're helping the professor in his lab, maybe what the work you do, maybe you are into experiments and things like that. Um, so you are helping the professor, do some things in the lab, and you get paid for that. And that money you're paying is good enough to pay your school fees, to take care of your upkeep and things like that. Then if you I think the most common will be teaching assistantships. So you are paid to teach undergraduate students, and the funding is enough to cover for your own studies. So that's and while doing that, you also get experience. If you're a research assistant, you get a lot of research experience. If you're a teaching assistant, you get a lot of teaching assistant. Then you can have something like administrative assistantship where you get to do some administrative work. Maybe I remember in my journey, right? I started applying I've started looking. I wanted to go abroad right from after high school, like I told you the other time. After Badagry Grammar School, I didn't want to study in Nigeria, right? But then, I mean, I the temptation is to just stay there and not move on. But I discovered I had to keep making progress until you get what you want. So do the best with what you have, you know, until you get what you are looking for, and that's the idea. Because that thing you that all that thing you are going to have might just be what you need to get what you're looking for. So don't just sit down and say I must go abroad and that's it. So I told you, like I said, I finally got a bachelor's degree and master's degree from Nigeria, and that was the basis upon which I finally got into Japan. All right, so that's about assistantships. Then there you have what we call Australia Awards, and there are a whole lot more scholarships that I can't even cover, millions of them. So, and that's why I'm going to tell you tips like how to find information. It's a big deal. You know, I have a friend who always referred to we lived in the same room when I was during youth service. So he will always tell people that, oh, you remember that time I was always pressing phone like till tomorrow. Me and phone, we are 5 and 6 because I'm always out looking for the latest information. Like so today, if you ask me about almost any country, I can tell you something about almost any country in this world because I've applied everywhere you can think of, except for some countries where I feel I'm not so I don't feel comfortable with some of those countries. Those are the ones I didn't bother applying to. Okay. Then of course after you do your so you can get graduate or postgraduate scholarship for master's degree, PhD, and all that. And then afterwards, if you still want to go on, if you like book, like some of us, some people yab us for liking books more than when are we going to stop reading? But I mean, that's our life and we enjoy it. So if you want to keep going book, you can get postdoctoral fellowships. So at that level, maybe it may not be necessarily scholarships, it's now fellowships. So these are awarded to early career researchers who are fresh out of PhD programs. So if you want to get a postdoc, mostly you can only get a postdoc within the first 5 years after finishing PhD. For instance, I graduated PhD 2020. So I'm still a bit qualified to get. In fact, interestingly, thankfully, I got a postdoc after 2 years because, of course, after PhD, I returned to Nigeria, and then after 2 years, I returned. I came back to Japan as a postdoc, sort of before getting an assistant professorship right now. So that actually works. So if you are looking for a postdoc after of course, after PhD, right, you have many options open to you. You can work in a research institute. You can go to the academia. So naturally, people would expect that after PhD you should go into the academy, but that academy is not the only path. Some people get a PhD and they go into industry. For instance, I know some of you would know Dr. Michael Taiwo. He has a scholarship for people. So I think he helps people to settle in the US. He helps people to pay for their GRE, TOEFL, and all of that. So he actually got a PhD in chemical engineering also. And then he did not become a lecturer. He went into industry, went to Shell, So you don't have to be a lecturer or you don't have to be a university person just because you got a PhD. So at the end of the day, make sure it's something that aligns with your interest. So you can get postdoctoral fellowships from bodies like all the bodies I've mentioned. Like in Japan, it's JS. I have it there already. Okay. So the TWAS is the World Academy of Science. The beauty of TWAS is that it is strictly for developing countries. It's so sad that Nigeria is still a developing country, as they say. So, but I mean, it's strictly for countries like that, so you don't have to compete with other people. So, and you have, I know people who have got TWAS fellowships to places like South Africa, Malaysia, um, China, Italy, Pakistan, whereas Brazil, India, yeah, those are the so they are TWAS fellowships in those places. Then there's ICTP too. In fact, I know two people at least who got an ICTP is International Center for Theoretical Physics. If I'm correct, yeah, it should be International Center for Theoretical Physics, and the headquarters is in Trieste in Italy. So what happens most times is that they have a program called postgraduate diploma. So after bachelor's degree, you can get a postgraduate diploma there. And after the diploma, you can now go for master's and then PhD or something. So, but the idea of going for a diploma, some people may not like it, but it will just be the pathway that you need to go to connect to your next level. So sometimes you may have to go Erasmus or Ames or ICTP if you cannot go straight to the US, which is more like the probably US or Canada, right? Which are like the top destinations for most Nigerians these days. Then I also highlighted OwEJD. That is the um, Organization for Women in Science in Developing Countries or something like that. So that one is also strictly for women, strictly for women. Then there's MIF, that is Matsume International Fellowship. It's for people who have a PhD already, who have never been to Japan. But the only thing is that if you want to Japan, MIF may not be the thing for you because it's only for 6 months. But the thing is, the 6 months experience can actually open you up to other opportunities. That's another thing. So, and whoever is applying for that must not be more than 45 years old, you know. And then there's JSPS. JSPS is like the postdoc version of MEXT. It's Japan Society for the Promotion of Sciences. So the JSPS fund is like the sweetest fund you can get to come and do postdoc in Japan. When I was coming back to Japan, I applied for JSPS. I didn't get it. So I just came by faith. Of course, I have my family here, so I came at least because of family, and along the line, everything fell in place. Then, of course, there's also DAD for postdoc, and then there's Humboldt Foundation Scholarship. So DAD and Humboldt are both German-based stuff, just like MIF and JSPS are for Japan. TWAS is in Italy. So TWAS, I think I'm not sure. TWAS headquarters in Italy too. I think TWAS and ICTP they have something in common. And then I think OwSD is also on that TWAS or something. I'm not very sure, but I think it's most likely that. Okay, so those are some possibilities. So if you're coming out of the academic realm now, if you're here and you are into NGOs like community development, you are into the sustainable development goals. So it's not only so fellowships are not only for academic people, right? You can probably if you're on Facebook, you see people who got Mandela Washington Fellowship. I think some of them just came back recently. And I know a couple of people who actually got into this too. And it is life changing too for most people that get into it. So you go for 1 year, you go for some developmental training. So when we talk about developmental stuff, right, it's like maybe all the social development stuff. Like maybe you do. I know somebody who I think there's this doctor. I've forgotten her name. No, she's not a doctor. She's a lawyer actually. She's a practicing lawyer, interestingly. But she what she does is she helps uh, women from rural areas who are going to give birth, who don't have means to get things they need, baby needs. So she helped them to supply those things. And so she got recognized for things like that. And she got on the, I think, Mandela Washington program. And it's really revolutionized everything. And now she has a manufacturing place where she makes baby stuff like baby pads and stuff like and things like that, So it's not just for PhD or postdoc. If you're interested in development, like maybe community service, um, maybe you have some mobilization you do in your community and things like that. Adepeju Jayob. Oh, Shiju is here. Shiju is Adepeju's paddy. So she's there. Is here. So yeah, Adepeju Jayoba definitely. Could you highlight postdoctoral fellowship that are arts and humanities focused? I postdoc now. I think the trouble most times is that most of these things are focused on STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So, but then it doesn't mean that you cannot get postdoc for things in humanities and all that. So, one thing I would recommend here is this: if you're into humanities, so one of the recommendations I'm going to give, I think it's probably still down the line. So, I think the suggestion for me would be that on Facebook, there are people like Professor Moses Ochonu. If you don't follow him and you're in humanities, he's a professor of history. If you're not following him, you're on a long thing, right? If you're into the humanities and you're not part of the Lagos Studies Association, for instance, they are in Nigeria. I know. I mean, I have someone. It's more like a brother to me, right? He got very active in the Lagos Studies Association, and from there he got an opportunity to do his PhD in the grad. I think it's called the Graduate Institute in Switzerland. So and he studied history from Unilag. So I think though the opportunities for humanities and arts may not be that common, but you can actually follow people who are already in that line and they can already lead you. So people like Professor Moses Ochonu, Professor Sahid Aderito, I mean these people are they are on social media. People like Professor Farouk Berugi, who I mean he writes most all the time about issues concerning Nigeria. He's a professor of media and all that in the US. So if you're into arts and all that, though the opportunity may not be that out there like for others, but they are still there all the same. For instance, maybe not postdoc now for Erasmus. I think Erasmus has some governance and policy kind of funding like that. So you want to consider that. So if you're into arts and humanities, at the end of the day, everything boils down to information. There are some STEM people who don't have any funding, whereas there are some arts people who have. So, and most of the times it's basically about networking, So that's a very nice one, Adegoke Owosheni. Yeah, so back to the International Development Fellowships, right? Mandela Washington Fellowship. There's Atlas Core. These things are very competitive too. So, but if you are doing community-based things like somebody like Shiju, he's doing a whole lot in the area of development. So, these are a whole lot of opportunities. I know even African Development Bank, they have some of these kind of things too. So there's the Atlas Core Fellowship, Acumen Fellowship, Ford Foundation. Now, I may not know so much about this, but you encountering them is enough. All you need these days, all you need is just a name. And once you have the name, just go online, do your research, and find out how you get into all these things. And I'm very sure getting any of these things is life changing. I mean, for everybody who has been into it. Okay, now I think this is a very good opportunity to talk about Ayodele. I don't know if his surname is Sikbasi or Shikbashi. I don't know how he pronounces that name. He finished from FUTA from forestry and wood technology. That's one of the courses that people underrate in FUTA. But I've discovered that no course is to be underrated. Just be good at what you do. So Ayodele Shikbashi finished from FUTA. I think he finished with the third class. Not even I think he finished with the third class from FUTA. But he's into these something like community all this developmental stuff, right? So he's into maybe all this agric based development and all that. So based on that, he got some of this kind of funding. He went to Germany, made a presentation, and he literally wowed the audience. And from there, he got serious recognition. And today he's in, I think, Kansas State University, it must be Kansas State University. He's doing his PhD in Kansas State University as we speak, with a third class from FUTA in forestry, in what they call firewood technology for that matter. So you see, you don't want to underrate any course. All you need is information and being at the right place at the right time and doing the right things all the time. So volunteer, lead, and everything. So it's not only financial, it's not only academic. Of course, high CGPA is a big deal, right? But I mean, imagine even if you don't have the high CGPA, there are other ways by which you can, you can find your way into these things. So if you're into the development space, you want to consider all of these things. So if you're into something like health, for instance, you can already see global health core fellowship and things like that. And sometimes not if the scholarship you are looking for, you may end up getting it by going through these other routes first. So you get an international development fellowship. From there, you're going to meet people, and from there you can network and get into what you finally want to get. Of course, obviously, scholarships and fellowships have a lot of benefits. For instance, how would somebody like me from my tribe, from my family, from wherever I come from, how would I ever dream of a PhD? Not even in Nigeria, I mean in Japan, right? But because of this kind of finance, so now see, there's a lot of money out there waiting for who to get them. They want people who add value, and so there's a lot of money looking for value, the direction of value to go to. So if you are not already adding value, start that. And it's start by first adding value to yourself by being very good at what you do, and then adding value to others by supporting people, helping people. Every one person you help is actually like an insurance for your future. So of course it doesn't mean that because you help people they will automatically pay you back, because you also don't want to develop that what they call that entitlement mentality. Because you help someone, it doesn't mean that the person must do something nice for you back. Some people will not. In fact, some people will even harm you for helping them. That's not your business. Your business is just to keep helping, because it's a law that you will never fail. As you help people, you get helped too. So add value to yourself, add value to others, and you get all this. You attract this money, get the right information, as I'm going to see later. So scholarships are very beneficial. One of it is financial ease. So studying in Japan, I didn't have to stress myself. I didn't even have to teach a class, or I didn't have to do any special thing apart. So I was literally being paid to study, basically. And then undivided attention. You see, going for a PhD, for instance, is already a hard task. Imagine having to look for money alongside. In fact, some people die in the process of doing that, because a PhD alone is enough wahala. To now add looking for money to it, it's of course people do it too. People do it because at least half bread is better than puff puff, like they say. So some people actually do this. So I mean, at the end of the day, if you are, I mean, some people are so resilient they can work and do all that and fund their PhD. That's fine. But if you have financial, if you have a fellowship or a scholarship, you don't have to stress yourself out like that. Okay, now let's come to talk about the scholarship and fellowship process. So here I've highlighted uh, four processes. The first part is information. You see, I've been talking about information every step of the way. And when I talk about information, I mean if any kind of information, anything you don't know is worthy of knowing of being known. Like, of course, I'm talking about good things now because you can also, in the process of seeking information, you can start learning bad things. So, I mean, for me, my in as much as I come from where I come from and I attended local authority primary school, I had a bit of exposure to things like I had this background where I want to know about my world. I want to know what is happening. So most of the countries I go to today, I already knew about them like when I was in primary or secondary school. You know, learn about their flag, who is their president, well, what is the country like, and things like that. So you already have a picture. In fact, by getting all this information, you have already traveled to the place without even being there first. So by the time you finally go there, it makes a lot of sense. Things fall in place because for instance, when I came to Japan finally, it was like I already had a picture in my mind. So it was just like, okay, finally I'm touching the place physically because I've always known about Japan, the whole their history, the world, the atomic bomb issue, Nagasaki, Hiroshima, all those kind of things. So and I know something like that about every country. So information is key. So I mean, one thing I tell people is the internet is there. People are making a lot of money on the internet, doing all kinds of things, stupid things, good things, and all that, right? But for you, what the one key rule I have is anytime you go to the internet and anytime you finish surfing the internet, ask yourself, what have I learned? If you haven't learned anything, if you have only gone to laugh or seeing people doing this challenge or that challenge that doesn't add any value to you, then you're wasting your time. So the internet is there. The internet has literally democratized everything. You have access to everything. So one of the most common questions I got asked when I came to Japan for PhD was, Japanese people they see me and they were like, how did you because they can't even conceptualize it that how did you end up coming here? How did you know your professor? Everything is online. It's just online, basically. So seek information, know about countries, know about know about universities, know about people, know about their ranking. I remember it was when I was in 200 level in FUTA when I knew that back then the best university in Canada was Brock. I think it must have been Brock University. Then we're in FUTA 200 level. So I was already aiming for universities like that. Like I want to go to the top universities, any country I was going to. So then it was Brock. But lately, I think if you're looking for the best, you're thinking about University of Toronto and universities like British Columbia. So I mean, all that information right from 200 level. So it has a way it's prepared. So you already know that information. So things just come naturally. I mean, things fall in line easily because you are making informed decision. So know about countries, know about the universities in those countries, know about departments. Sometimes everybody wants to go to Harvard and MIT and all those Ivy League schools. But sometimes, depending on the course you study, the best departments in the course you study, because America has all these rankings. So in the course you study, the best departments, for instance, I studied maths, right? The best departments in maths may not be in any of those Ivy League schools. It may be and it may not be. So don't just assume that because it is Harvard, it must be the best. No. So you need to know all those nitty gritty, get down, drill down to all those information. So get information. So if you're applying for scholarship or fellowship now, get like I've showed you some of the scholarships. I'm sure you're seeing some of them for the first time. So I'm very sure if I was in your shoes, right? I'm already taking notes that in fact this even reminds me when I was in secondary school, but I grammar school now. Then internet for you to get internet, you have to go to cyber cafe. I'm talking about the year 1999, 2000, 2001. So the closest cafe at some point was in Agbara. Agbara was like, was it up to, something like 30 minutes drive from Badagry, right? So because at some point I got introduced to the internet by one of my youth leaders in church, and because I knew I would probably have opportunity to go with him because I mean I just got really computer savvy at those points. So I had a note I was taking about any idea that dropped into my mind. I'll write it down in the notes. So for some of you that know me, one of my ambitions is to be United Nations Secretary General. Though I don't really care so much about that these days because of this whole, all the agenda issues flying all over the place. So and how I came to that United Nations thing was At that point in time, the United Nations Secretary General was Kofi Annan. So I was wondering, how did this black person, at least somebody that looks like me, is the General United Nations Secretary General? So I was like, if I want to be United Nations Secretary General, how will I become that? So I wrote that down in my notes. So I carried that notebook around. So any idea that came, I wrote it down. So when next I went to the cafe, sometimes to be overnight browsing. So you pay like 500 and you browse from 8 p.m. to maybe like from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. or something like that. So all of that time, so I would just write things down in the notes and check them out. So that's emphasizing information. Information is extremely important. Learn. If you are in a particular field of study, get information, know about it. Like you don't waste your time ever getting information because you don't even know where the information is going to pay off for you, right? So get information, and being informed, because most people don't care about getting information, right? You can easily stand out as an informed person wherever you go. So if you're applying for fellowship, know about the fellowship or scholarship. What is it about? What are the requirements? Just like I told you, most scholarships require you to have high CGPA, but some don't care. Like Chevening scholarship, they don't need your high CGPA. They need your bachelor's degree, whether it is 2-2 or whatever, and they need like 2-year work experience. Whether in the private or government sector. So, I mean, that's something right there for you. So if you have tutor and you have already written yourself off, and of course, even with tutor, like I told you, third class, you can still get it fund, you can get funding in the US. All you may need to do is maybe go for a master's and hit it hard. Do up your research game. Make your research, learn research, and let it be very good. Have good publications, and that can actually set you apart. And of course, the next step will be the selection. I'm going to break all these things down in subsequent slides. So I'm just talking about this for now. So there's the selection process. So the selection is now you have applied, you've got information. Um, Oh, yeah, I think I'm going last. So information. Then the next thing is after getting informed about the scholarship you're going for, the next stage is the preparation. So you get your documents together. Now you'll be surprised. There are people that are looking for scholarship, but they don't have international passports. Of course, I understand if you don't have international passport because you can't afford it yet. But you don't even. But some people don't know that to get a scholarship. In fact, to even write, I remember I wrote IELTS, I wrote GRE. Of course, these days those things can be waived for you since after COVID. There's been a lot of waiving for those things. So part of the preparation is just like I told you when we are opening this that when I was leaving FUTA in 2010, one of the parting gifts I got was the federal government scholarship. I think it was 150,000. So it was from that I made my first passport. So you can't be saying you apply for scholarship and you don't have international passport. What if the opportunity comes and you can? In fact, you can't even write GRE or TOEFL or IELTS without an international passport. They don't need your ID card or anything. They need your international passport. So that's where it even starts from. So it's not until you want to travel abroad that you need passport. No. So if you are here, one of the goal after now is take a step of faith, get international passport. Sadly, they have increased the money again, but don't worry, we keep beating them at their game. So, all right. So preparation is important. Get your documents together, your CV, your if you are going for PhD, your proposal. If you are going for masters, all the statement of purpose, statement of interest, all of these kind of things, which I'm going to talk about subsequently. And then, of course, after you have prepared your documents, then you apply, and then you go to the selection step. So those are the processes involved. So let's take these things one after the other. Talking about information, I've implied all these things a lot. Get curious about scholarships, fellowships, and countries. Interesting, I know what has brought you here is because of your curiosity, right? So it is because you are curious that you are here. So get curious about scholarships, fellowships. I've told you countries, universities, departments that are the best. The fact that a school is the best does not mean that your course is best studied in that school. So you want to find out about that too. Then, of course, like I said, make wild internet searches. Anytime you go to the internet and come back, ask yourself, what have I gained? Right? Then you can also join information sharing groups online. Like opportunities for with EJD, like it's a platform like that. So I get to share a lot of in fact, not even only me, other people they share opportunities there about all kinds of scholarships in every area I've ever talked about. Scholarships, jobs, and all of that. So there are many of those groups today on Facebook, on Telegram, on WhatsApp. Somebody say, yes, I'm currently working on getting it, but the price increased suddenly. Don't worry. Just set your mind to it. You will get it. You're a big boy now. How about you get it? Calm down. So follow relevant researchers and institutes on Twitter. Now, see, people are sleeping on gold mines. So you are on Twitter, especially, and you're on LinkedIn, and you don't Now, I mean, let me not condemn anybody. Let me just talk. Let me just give the advice. Let me not come from that negative side. Now, if you're on Twitter and LinkedIn, you see, I didn't know the importance of Twitter until I went for a conference in Australia in 2018. I didn't know Twitter all the while I was looking for PhD funding and everything. There are professors on Twitter and LinkedIn that are also looking for you. So the people you are looking for, they are looking for you on LinkedIn and Twitter. You just need the right connection. You just need to know who to follow. So even if you are looking for academic job or anything, you can just go to the search in LinkedIn and just say MSc or PhD in this. So sometimes the professors you are looking for are actually looking for you on Twitter and LinkedIn. So if you have not been doing that well, so you want to find out who are these people. So check if they're on Twitter or they are on LinkedIn. Follow them. When they post something, like it, repost it, comment on it. Let them notice you. That's where this whole thing starts. So if you're on Twitter and LinkedIn, don't sleep on it. They are gold mines of opportunities. They are gold mines of opportunities. So and from there you can get so follow people who share a lot. They are, in fact, these days it's such a blessing. Nigeria is really taking a huge lead when it comes to this whole scholarships in Africa. So you have a lot of people. You have people like Dr. Olumuyiwa Ibalajobi. You have people like Dr. Adejimi, Adeniji, you have people like different people sharing all kinds of there are people that also tell you all these things I'm telling you now, they break it down. They tell you, okay, this is how to write a cold email. They tell you step by step. So we want to follow these people and get informed. Very important. So get yourself mentors that will ease your journey. Of course, what part of what I'm doing is this is part of the mentoring process like that. So that you're here shows already that I mean you're in for a good ride. Okay. So get informed, join groups, and that's like where the whole networking thing comes. And when you join groups, don't be dormant. When they are asking for uh, when they're asking for volunteers, be the first to volunteer because there's no way you can volunteer for someone and there's opportunity. In as much as I share opportunities generally in our groups, there are some people I see this opportunity is best suited for this person. I won't even share it in the general group. I'll share it to the person directly because they have stood out. Maybe at some point they have volunteered or they have also found information and they have shared it. I'll just share it to them privately. So don't be in a group and just be there for like that. So get noticed for good things for that matter. Okay. Then of course from information we go to the preparation level, which I already implied. So get the necessary requirements. You need a strong academic background. That's like still a key thing, right? People will tell you school is scam. At the end of the day, it is money we are all looking for. It's not just money we are all looking for. So anybody can get money, right? But a strong academic background. Of course, I'm not saying that you need the richest people on earth are first class people. No, but take all the richest people you know and ask me what their CGPAs were in bachelor's degree. Is it somebody like Elon Musk who is literally a genius or Jeff Bezos? All those people, they had very nice academic backgrounds or people you have been deceived. Some people are so I don't know. I don't want to attack anybody. So some people have been deceived that Bill Gates was a school dropout. Which school did he drop out from? Like that some schools, if you can be admitted to the school already, you have made it in life. Like the fact that you're even qualified to be admitted, you're a big. Imagine somebody dropping out of Harvard and you're saying the person is a school dropout. Don't follow those people at all, I beg. So strong academic background, excellent leadership and volunteering experience. Now, these are very good points. Now, you see, many people just because I've said a strong GPA is good, they go to the university and all they're after is only CGPA. Now, by the time you're done, you have your first class. I have my first class too. But in addition to my first class, I was an executive in my school fellowship. I was a volunteer. I was actually president of anti-AIDS club. Doing something in the community, being a leader, volunteering. So these are the people that are not looking for just people who are book smart anymore. They're also looking for people who can be team players, who can develop their communities. Then of course, publication record is extremely important, especially if you're going for a PhD. So if you're published in good journals in the past, that can be a plus for you. At least if you're going for PhD, if you have at least one or two papers, that will stand you out a lot. Then at this point, before I forget, I always advise that if you're going to the US, the best time to go is after your bachelor's degree. Because most times, the North Americans, like US and Canada, they believe that you don't know anything wherever you're coming from. Even if you're coming with MSc, they still believe you should do their own MSc first so that you can prove that you are really good. So if you're going to the US, one of the best time is after bachelor's degree. I'm not saying it's not, it may not be always straightforward because of course I made a couple of attempts to go to, I couldn't go because our pathways may be different too, you know. But I'm going to talk. I mean, there's the God factor thing because God leads, right? And there's a timing for everything. That's also very important. But I'm just giving all this information generally. Then write qualifying tests like IELTS, TOEFL, GMAT, and GRE. Now these days everything is skyrocketing because you have to pay in dollars. I remember I wrote IELTS back then. It was 35,000. I can't imagine how much it is now. I wrote GRE then. A friend paid for me actually, like I think it was $159 or something like that in 2015. I wonder what it will be now. So that, but interestingly, there are waivers for some of these things. Dr. Igbalajobi is doing a great job. He's writing universities across the world to tell them that how can you be expecting a Nigerian, the Wole Soyinka country, to be writing English tests to enter university? Why? So, and some of these universities are responding very well across the world for that matter. So thank God for people like that who are really making such moves. So, but of course, if you can afford some of these things, they can actually stand you out. You see, I know I think of course it's not common that people write a GRE and IELTS, you know, at least before they go. It's not common because you can always get waivers for these things. But I remember one student in particular, I've forgotten his name. I think he's in the University of North Dakota or something right now, or is it yeah, I'm not sure. But I think the university is like UND, something like that. So he came and it was like, why he's been applying and things have not been falling in place. And I'm like, can you afford GRE? And he said he could afford it. So the advice I just give is if you are going to write GRE, just aim for 160 over one. You know, GRE has three main components. You have the verbal reasoning, that's like your normal English, lexis and structure, comprehension. That's what verbal reasoning is about. Then there is quantitative reasoning, that's like mathematics, high school level mathematics, all these our small maths that we do. So, you know, that's the quantitative reason. And then there's academic writing. So academic writing is where I think you get to write two essays to show how well you understand English, right? So I just advised him that, see, just aim for 160 over 170 in quantitative reasoning, aim for 160 over 170 in verbal reasoning, and then aim for at least 4/6 in academic writing. After some months, he came back. He was like, he got 326. And before I knew what was happening, he just came and he was like, he was going to the US already. You know, that, so if you, of course, some people have the means, they have the funding. So not all of us come from my kind of family. So if you have funding, of course, you don't even have to come from my kind of family because these days too, some undergraduates even make more money than professors. Not because they are Yahoo people, not because they are scamming anybody, but because they're actually doing legit jobs, you know. So if you can afford it, so don't think it is too much for you. So money will always go, but the opportunities may not always be there for you. So if you have the fund to do some of these things, feel very free. But if you don't have the fund, of course, you can always find your way around it. So the key is use whatever you have to your best advantage. So of course, you have to identify specific areas of interest. Now, this is a very good advice I give. So by the time I was looking for PhD, right? Some people, I've seen people, very funny. I've seen somebody in this Japan. The person was looking for a specific thing or nothing else, and that's, for me, that's so annoying. So, you know, because you like an area so much, you don't want anything else. So by the time I was done with, I was looking for PhD, right? You know, I studied mathematics. So from all my studies during bachelor's degree, especially, I just discovered, I really liked mathematical modeling. You know, all these modeling diseases and things like that. Of course, I mean, my number one priority then was financial mathematics. So have three, whatever you're studying or wherever you're going to, have three areas of interest at least. So for me then it was financial mathematics number one, mathematical biology number two, mathematical optimization number three. So when I was ready, I was looking for professors in all these three areas. I was just looking for funding in all these three areas. Anyone that came, I was ready to go. Finally, I got mathematical biology. Though I would have really loved to get financial maths, which was my number one choice, but I go for mathematical biology and it's fine, you know. So you must identify three areas of interest so that you can give yourself options. Don't put yourself in a tight corner that, oh, it is this thing I want to do or nothing else. No, so look for three areas that you are really interested in. Rank them in order of importance. So in case it is possible, some people get 7 scholarships at the same time. So and then you are now faced with how to choose. So if I had got funding for all these three, I'll just choose financial maths because I even already ranked it as my number one. Mathematical biology was number two, and so on and so forth. So in your area where you want to go to, identify 3 areas. I'm also aware that some people, maybe you studied a particular course and you want to change direction. It's very possible. The only thing is that maybe you should already have something you are doing in that area. I know there's a it's very interesting. There's this person who was, I think it was 1 or 2 years after me in Futa. He studied biochemistry, and but he had always liked all these political discourses. I think they used to call him barista then. I've forgotten his name now. He's even an accurate person himself. So he finished from biochemistry, I believe, and all of a sudden I discovered, oh, he goes around US universities teaching poetry. So can you imagine, even an interest like that can be what will now take over, and what you studied may not even be the issue. So don't put all your attention on what you studied alone. Give yourself opportunities. Give yourself opportunities. Like as I am right now, I can easily fit into a data science environment. Though I studied mathematics, and I really started doing data science actively 2 years ago. Or is it? I'm not even sure. I think it's about, yeah. Let's even say 2 years conservatively, right? So always be in that place where you give yourself options, where you can nobody holds you in a tight corner. Like, if anybody's going to hold you in a tight corner, let it be God, not any situation, not anything. If this one is not working, you can always look there. So, like that. So give yourself options, right? So put together your required documents, your international passports, your transcripts. See, I've seen people that told me that would tell you back then when we were graduating that I don't need this transcript for anything. I don't need this certificate for anything. Even if you finish with fourth class, before you leave your university campus, collect your transcript. It's your property. It is not anybody's property. Collect it, because I've seen people who thought they would never need their transcripts and certificates, and it is time to jack and they are looking for it all over the place. And by the time you go back, they will now tell you, oh, that thing that was 5,000 is now 50,000. It is your fault. So as you are graduating, especially if you attend a school like Futa, where as you are graduating, your transcript is ready. Don't wait and think that somebody will collect for you. Collect everything you need to collect. Collect now. Collect now. Okay? Transcript certificates, make your CV. If you don't have a CV, there are many CV templates on the internet, depending on where you're going. If you're coming to Japan is interested in everything about your life. They want to see every year you have lived. Where are you? If any year is missing, in fact, they will literally call you to ask you, your this year what happened, you didn't put the information. But for the US, they don't care about maybe your local government, your religion, your local government of origin. They don't care about all of those things. Yeah, they only care about key things. They don't even care about your sex or age or anything. Like, they don't care about all of those. So when you're making your CV for Japan, it's not the same kind of CV you make when you're going to America. So take notes of the differences and align. So, and you can always get these templates online. Then of course, yes, there are things about statement of purpose and motivation letter. And of course, there are many writings on the internet to tell you what's the difference between statement of purpose, research proposal, all these things. So find out. And funny thing is, you can even get templates of these things online. Now, another thing is, with AI, things have even become easy. Now, I'm not telling you to go and generate something from AI and just copy and paste. So you can just, so if you don't know what the statement of purpose look like, just tell AI, I need a sample statement of purpose. It will generate it. So read it, just look at it. Then don't copy and paste it. Just go and write your own. So it has given you, or you can even tell it to give you the guidelines instead of writing it directly. So I won't talk much about it, because you can already get some of this information from all kinds of writings on the social media, and of course AI can help a lot. So you don't need you don't need to copy and paste AI. But you need it to brainstorm, to know direction about something. So in fact, with AI as a writer these days, you don't have to have a writer's block, like they say, because you can always jumpstart the process by letting AI can give you ideas on what to do. Okay, so I won't waste time with all these things. Just go there and say, what does the motivation letter look like? It can give you a sample, and then you don't copy and paste. I keep emphasizing that. Don't copy and paste, because some of these schools also have ways of checking if you have copied from somewhere. Okay. Then of course there's research proposal. This is particularly important if you're going for PhD. Then of course that will also involve a research plan. Research proposal is what you intend to do. Now, one thing is this: a research proposal is not a guarantee. It's not a guarantee that that's what you're going to do when you finally get into the program. In fact, what I wrote in my research proposal is totally different from what I'm doing now. What I did for my PhD, for instance. So it's just, they want to see how well you can articulate articulate your thought, basically, because that's necessary in the PhD program, or as a postdoc too. And of course, research plan shows things like timelines. The first For how many months are you going to do your literature review? If you have some research, some experiments, how are you going? So from when to when are you going to do it, and things like that. And then there are essays. So you can have essays, especially if you're applying for international development fellowships, for instance. You may need to write essays about what you have done in your community. What do you do about networking? What is leadership? What do you think leadership is about? So they can give you a topic to write about on. And of course, don't copy and paste from AI because they can easily find you out these days. So you can use AI to brainstorm and then put pen to paper for yourself, write in your own language. Okay. And of course, you can edit. Don't say because you cannot use AI, you cannot edit with it, right? Like if you write your thing, you may be able to edit. And if you are still afraid, you can use Quillbot, something like Quillbot, to help you check your grammar and things like that. So that's the preparation part. It cannot be exhausted, but you have the highlights. Then, of course, you have got information, you have prepared your documentation, you have applied. Before you apply, right, you want to identify potential supervisors or programs. Interestingly, most universities these days, even in Nigeria, you can easily, I don't know, but most universities in serious places, you can easily get the contact of the professors and supervisors, and you write them emails and they will answer you. Or they may never answer you. But you see what? You may write 100 people and only one person will answer. All you need at the end of the day is just that one person that will answer you. I know I've been there. It can be discouraging that you write these people, they don't answer you. Or maybe some that will answer will tell you, oh, I don't have space, or I don't have funding, or I don't have this. Or most will never answer you. That's it. That's very normal. Normalize that. Most people will never answer you. And that's not a problem. So if they don't answer, move on. If they answer and they say they don't have funding, move on. Okay. So don't get beaten down because it can be very discouraging. Sometimes you'll be like, I know they do again, but no, one thing I've seen is if you don't give up, something will surely give. I know one of my former students was class rep in MTS department. I think he even finished with 2-2, but somehow he develops interest in maths education, in education generally. So, and just last month or so, he got he got funding in Florida and Georgia. So he was confused. He didn't know where to go. Finally, he decided for Georgia. So, and I've been writing recommendation letters for him for like nothing less than 4 years. Every year I will see it again. Of course, I've been there before, so I can understand. So there sometimes some people don't even bother telling me again that they have written, they have applied. Of course, I mean, it's not a bad thing to do. Just say, I'm applying for this, blah blah. But I don't care to. So once I see that if you have not discussed it before, and I just see your recommendation request, I may not answer you. But if I know you one on one, at least, even if I've not seen you before, if you have talked, somebody like Zoe, this is my I mean, I just met Zoe like a couple of days ago. Somebody, if you want recommendation letter, I'll definitely write it for you because I mean we have a basis of connecting already. So something like that. So identify potential supervisors and programs. So I've told you what to look out for. Don't kill yourself. You can go to Harvard and you may not go. But if you have a very strong CGPA, don't write off yourself that you can't. There are FUTA students in all these schools, in Stanford, in MIT, and all these places. There are students from Nigerians in all of these places. So don't write yourself off. So if you have a very good CGPA, from your background, you can go to all these places. So identify them, contact them via email, and attach documents that can help them make a decision about you. So you see, these professors get tons of email. So you want to go straight to the point. You want to so your okay. What I usually used to write them was research interest. That's use my proper headline, or PhD interest or something like that, or PhD research interest. That can be a subject, and then you go straight to the point. My name is blah blah blah. I finished from this place with this CGPA, bachelor's, this master's that. I checked, I saw your profile, and I discovered that our research interests are aligned, and I would like to be your student, and I also won't mind. I'm interested. I also like to get some funding, or if I'm applying for some funding already, you can also mention it. Think to go straight to the point. In fact, you also want to relate to them very well. That I particularly like this paper on something, 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 to show that you have done your homework, so they will know you're serious because they get tons of letters like that. And for you to catch their interest, you need to really stand out. Okay. And of course, when everything is in place, now let me emphasize this idea of supervisor, right? So some departments don't require you to contact the supervisor before applying. But do you know what? I'll still tell you to apply. I mean, to write a supervisor of your interest. But one thing is, don't write more than one supervisor in the department at a time. So if you write a supervisor and they tell you no, or they don't answer you, then you can write another one. But if you write a supervisor, don't write a supervisor now, and then in the same department you write another supervisor. They may be sit down together to discuss it. So, and if they discover you have applied to two different people in the same department, that's wrong. So if you apply to this person now and the person doesn't answer you after like a month or something, then you can move on to somebody else if you really like that department. But there are thousands of schools all over the place. So I particularly recommend that you write one supervisor in a department at a time. Of course, maybe I mean for my area now, I mean mathematical biology, I can actually function in a department of biology, I can function in the department of mathematics, I can function in public health or all of these areas. So if I'm looking for some kind of opportunity, I can actually write professors in all these departments as far as they are not in the same department. Okay. So even in as much as some departments don't require you to reach out to a supervisor already, I will still advise that you do that because when they are making decisions, I will not take somebody I have not met over somebody who has at least contacted me and we have a conversation ongoing. They may not answer you. I mean, don't be deceived. They may not answer you, but at least they may answer you. So that's why you have to keep trying. So just write it. Just know that all the shots you don't take, you miss it all the time, right? So if you don't apply, you can never get selected. But if you apply, you may get selected and you may not. So at least you have your chance of not being taken by 50% when you apply. You know, so but it's a chance thing. So you just keep doing your thing, and of course, God leads to that. Say, just apply here, and everything just falls in place. So when all of these things have been sorted, you can apply when the coast is clear. Now let's talk about the selection process. Now, depending on the scholarship you're applying for, you may need the selection process may be different. So some may require you to take a test or to take an interview. Like next, I ran you through the next scholarship thing I did the other time. For next, in my set I keep remembering that about 400 or 450 of us applied. Then they will screen your document. Number one, with your CGPA, the CGPA you got, the course you studied, and how you even fill the form neatly. That's really part of it, right? So they will look at all of that. So once those things are in place, then they will invite those they think are good enough. So in our case, out of the 450 or so that applied, 70 of us were invited to write a test. So if you end up applying for the Japanese scholarship down the line, so the test was basically about maths. I mean, it was basically about English and Japanese. No maths. I mean, English and Japanese. And the English is lexis and structure, all this normal comprehension kind of thing. Very if you really understand English, normal high school English, you should not have a problem with it at all. Then you're wondering the Japanese part. Now the Japanese part is just there, is nominal, like they say. So it doesn't affect anything, right? So by the time I wrote my test, I only knew some words in Japanese, and what I even knew self, it was not I discovered in the exam that it's not even how they write the stuff. Me, I was going to think about writing it the way we write English, but no, you have to write it in their text, which I didn't know. So that one is not really a decider of anything. But of course, if you already, I have one of the persons, because they also rank you. So one person was ranked ahead of me, and I probably feel that what stood out is the fact that she could already speak some Japanese at that point in time. So with things like Duolingo these days, you can learn any language, So you want to do everything to stand you out as much as possible. So for me, I was number 4 on the list back then. So I'm sure the number one person already had somebody in Japan who put him through. So to use computer to fill the form. So the neater your form is, of course, all of us are first class, right? Or maybe his CGPA may be higher, and then his form is even neater. So you want to really stand out like that. So then, of course, after the test, out of the 70 of us, like I said the other time, 18 of us were picked for an interview, and from the interview, 8 of us were selected finally for that life-changing opportunity. So let's talk about selection. And talking about interview questions now, I've told you about the test. So for test now, of course, if you are going to America or something and you can afford GRE and IELTS, or you don't have a choice than to write it, of course, you can get a guide on all of these things on the internet. Like you can go on YouTube, and there are several videos you can see there that will take care of all these tests. So most of the time, what you even need to know is how the tests are structured. And sometimes it's not because you are intelligent. You need to know the trick of answering those questions. So it's not enough that you know you know a lot. You need to know the specific exam you're writing. What does it require? How does it look like? What skills do you need to answer the questions excellently well? So that's talking about the testing part. So in case you need to write some tests, right? So that's talking about test. So let's talk about interview. Possible scholarship or fellowship interview questions. Most of the time, the questions are around these things. It may not be exactly this, so but the questions are around this. So for possible interview questions, right? One of the questions they will ask you is, "What's your who are you?" Maybe they can just ask you, "Who are you?" Like that normal kind of job interview thing. So, and when they say, "Who are you?" you don't tell them, I'm the son of the lion of the tribe of Judah," or something like that. So you want to tell them, you can start by telling them, "My name is blah 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 blah. I have a bachelor's degree in industrial mathematics. I have a PhD, a master's in mathematical optimization, and PhD in mathematical biology." But you can tell them your CGPA and things like that. Just a brief, and you don't have to go too far. Just tell them basically. So if they're asking for your academic or research background, so you can tell them, if you whatever degree you have, a bachelor's degree, so tell them, "I have a bachelor's degree from Federal University of Technology, Akure." In fact, naming where you're coming from might matter too, because some schools already have some high standing in places. So don't be shy. If you know your school, if you are from Futa, for instance, you can show yourself. So just tell them, I graduated with 4 point blah 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 from Maths Department, Federal University of Technology, Akure. For my so research background is there, right? So you can tell them, my final year, I conducted a research on magneto-hydrodynamics, which has application in mechanical engineering. So just simple sentences, and you're done. And then the next thing they might ask you something like, "Why are you interested in your proposed country?" Like, I remember I was asked why I was interested in going to Japan. And I had done my research, just like I told you, information. So why are you interested in your proposed country? I mean, I'm a mathematician and I'm going to Japan. What's the connection? So before the interview, I'd Googled how many Japanese Nobel laureates emerged from, how many Nobel laureates had Japan produced, especially in, Nobel laureates generally. And the highest prize in mathematics is the Fields Medal Prize. So as at that time, Japan had produced 24 Nobel Prize winners and three Field Prize winners. That was as at the time I went for the interview in 2017. So I just told them that, yeah, I like to study in a place in a country that had produced 24 Nobel Prize winners and three Fields Medal Prize winners. It means and of course, Japan is known for this advanced technology. So you can always get something great like that about any country you're going to. So then, why are you interested in your proposed research? Now, my proposed research then was about still something in line of mathematical biology, combining mathematical optimization. So, and the whole idea is we use maths to make sense of health challenges or environmental issues, and these things have applications. Okay, and that takes me to relevance now. So, what is the relevance of your proposed research? Now, when it comes to this relevance thing, right, you need to know about the Sustainable Development Goals as much as possible. Now, if you are here, you don't know about the Sustainable Development Goals, you can write that down as one action you have to take. There are currently 17, but up to 2015, it was called this Sustainable Development Goals. Now it is Millennium Development Goals. Millennium Development. So back then it was Millennium Development Goals. Now it is Sustainable Development Goals, and there are 17 of them. I think the first one is no poverty. So any research you're conducting, as much as possible, should align with at least two or three of these Sustainable Development Goals. So if you don't, so you should be able to situate your research in line with some of these things. So I mean, that way they will know that you are in contact, you are in connection with what the world is thinking, right? So my research, for instance, if I'm looking at it at the mathematical biology side, it has impact on healthcare. If I'm looking at it from the environmental side, it has impact on, the part of the Sustainable Development Goal talks about life on land, life in water, and things like that. So they have all these, so I can already identify those particular Sustainable Development Goals. So as you're talking, you can just say, "Oh, my research is relevant, in tackling, in helping to answer questions relating to Sustainable Development Goal 7, 15, and 17, as it may relate." Then another question they may ask is, what are your plans after graduation? Now, you have to be very careful with this one. Now, you need to know the kind of scholarship you're applying for and what they require. If you know your plan is to go and not look back, don't go and tell them that when you are done, you go back to your country and become a professor and be consulting for industry. You don't need to lie. So what me I would do is I would rather not apply for a scholarship that requires me to return to Nigeria than go there and lie, because a lot of people actually lie. Of course, they lie and they get away with it, no problem. But for me, when I applied for MEC scholarship, right? The plan, interestingly, can you even imagine? When I sincerely applied for MEC scholarship, MEC scholarship gives you the opportunity to either return to your country or to work in Japan. So, but me, I was teaching in Futa and I really sincerely wanted to go back. So, when they asked me that, I was like, oh, I already have a position in Federal University of Technology, Akure, and I plan to come back. And I really actually returned, after my PhD. So, if you know that you cannot, I mean, I don't ever lie. That's one thing. So don't apply for a scholarship. There are some scholarship they actually require you to go back to your country. So something like Commonwealth scholarship, and some maybe Chevening even. Some of these scholarships require you to go back to your home country. So don't I mean just know how you're going to do it, so you don't need to lie. And there's no crime in going abroad and not returning to your home country. There's really no crime in that. And if you also want to return, it's not nothing bad. So just know what you want to do and go for what aligns with what you want to do. That's extremely important. So there may be more questions, but most of the time the questions are around all these points. Okay. So of course, you also want to know what is going on currently in your field. Like what is the fascinating thing that is happening in your field. So if you're into machine learning and AI now, you may want to talk about new advances like Grok that Elon Musk is developing and things like that. So at the end of the day, everything boils down to information. So in conclusion, right, I've said it a couple of times that there's a scholarship or fellowship for anyone who is willing to pay the price. So I don't care if you graduate with fourth class or fifth class or seventh class. I don't really care. I don't care if you're in 100 level or in primary school. If you actually seek information, there's a scholarship for you. The only thing is that with a high CGPA and all of some of these other things might be easier. But then if you at the end of the day, whoever you are, if you are resilient and persistent, you know, uh these two things are required as a process. As the process can be quite competitive and frustrating, sincerely. So at some point I just gave up that is this thing really worth it? But I just knew that, see, you know, if you want, especially when I became graduate assistant in Futa, right? At that time, it was a big deal, right? Like, out of NYS, you just come back straight to the university and you just resume, and then you're getting paid 105K. It was a big deal then. But I mean, if you sit down with the 105K by now, it won't make sense anymore because inflation has caught up with it and it doesn't make any sense anymore. So just make sure you give yourself options so you don't have to be trapped in a corner. And I mean, as a Bible person like me, I find something 37, 23, and 24 really instructive. That the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord. Of course, a good man is not somebody who is nice to everybody. A good man is somebody who knows Jesus and who follows him, who is in connection with the Holy Spirit. So the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delighteth in his way. Though he fall, he shall not be utterly cast down, for the Lord upholdeth him with his hand. So in your application process, you are going to lose steam, you are going to get discouraged, you are going to get frustrated. But the key is never, never give up. I think it was Winston Churchill that said that at some point, probably during the war, right? So with this, I come to the end of my TED talk, if you allow me to call it that. So, domo arigato gozaimasu in Japanese, and you can pick your own thank you in all the other languages around. Thanks for listening. It's been such a pleasure talking. So let's interact. Let's talk. Do you have any questions from the things I've said? Feel very free. Just raise your hand and I'll call you. Then if you cannot talk, you're free to also type in the chat. Okay, Omoja Rabi is raising his hand. Please go ahead.
Oh, thank you so much, Prof, for the wonderful section. I actually reacted. I was not raising my hand.
Oh, lovely, lovely. Thank you, thank you. Thank you so much. Read one. You're welcome. You're welcome. Benga Fakonye Baba. You're welcome. I think I saw something. Let me see if there are questions. Oh, okay. Yeah, my pleasure, everybody. Chidwade, thank you. Read one, thank you. Madame Fadouba, thank you. Merci infiniment pour votre conseil et encouragement. Merci beaucoup. Dorian, merci beaucoup. Omar Jarabi, thank you so much. Yeah, my pleasure, Paul Olashele. Thanks for coming that early. The people that came earliest were Paul Olashele. Who else? Yeah, Adedipe Israel and Zoe. Is Zoe still around? So they automatically have a free copy of a free e-copy of my next book coming. So punctuality is cool. So any questions? Is everybody fine? Yeah, Taiwo Elizabeth Adeyinka, my sister-in-law almost by name. All right. Any questions or are we just good? Is everything fine? No question? All right. For those of us that came late, and for those who will even miss it, of course, this is going on YouTube. That's why it is recorded. I have a YouTube channel. So I'll be posting this there. So I'll share the link with, for everybody who registered, I'm going to share the YouTube link with everyone. And okay, there's a Joshua coming. So I'm going to share the YouTube link right now. Interestingly, I am currently pushing for at 500 subscribers. I have 362 subscribers. Interestingly, I have almost as equal number of videos as subscribers. That's a strange one. But I mean, my approach is I just want to put all these things out there now that I have plenty of time to do that. I just want to push all those things out because I know they are going to be useful for a lot of people for a very long time. So if you are not subscribed to the channel, I'm posting it right now. In the chat, so you can subscribe, you can follow because you are going to find there's a lot interesting. I teach all kinds of topics on mathematics. I have about 17 videos on scientific computing using Python, and you can download the notes and follow. So feel very free to subscribe. So the link is in the channel, as posted in the channel right now. Ayotomi Waluashon, please come up with your question if you have one.
Oh, good afternoon, sir. Can you
Good
hear me, sir?
afternoon. Yeah, I hear you.
Well, afternoon, sir. Thank
Yeah,
you very much for your time, sir. I really appreciate you so much.
my pleasure.
So, yes, sir. During your speech, you gave us that you were so interested in financial mathematics.
Exactly.
So, can you just give a brief analysis between financial mathematics and business analytics, and what's actually built up your interest in that field? Thank you very much.
Oh, nice. So financial mathematics is actually it's some core mathematics stuff. Like I did mathematics first degree, industrial mathematics. That is. So financial mathematics is actually you using some mathematical skills, mathematical techniques to solve financial problems. And it's core math. Like in financial math, you're going to come across partial differential equations. So when it comes to all these black scholes, if you follow financial talks, so all these black scholes, hedging, option pricing, all of these things, those are the kind of things you come across in math. So they are very serious mathematics stuff. So, but on the other hand, business analytics is not that hardcore math. Business analytics is just is drawing business insight from data, right? So, and if you're not really into maths, financial maths may be scary for you. Now, one thing, if you know anybody who is a chartered financial analyst, you can imagine the kind of hardcore thing it takes. It's serious mathematics, like bad maths. I'm talking about partial differential equations, differential equations, and all that. Applied to business. That's that idea. So it's so for business analytics, if you with a little bit interest, you can easily get into it. But if you have a math background, you may be able to flow easily with anything that is related to business analytics. So like that. So that's why you see a lot of mathematicians these days. You see them that it's easy for us to pivot into data science, because I also hope data analysis is different from data science. Data science is also is becoming things are beginning to become tricky when you get to data science, because they are beginning to use your maths, your statistics, your computing together. But data analysis is just drawing insight from data generally, right? So they are somewhat different. With business analytics, you are drawing insight from data, and of course, you can give financial advice based on that. But with financial mathematics, you're talking about hard cost of like hedging, option pricing, black skulls and all of that.
Oh, thank you very much, sir. Thank
My
you for your
pleasure.
time, sir.
You're welcome.
God bless you.
Yes, thank you so much. Oh, my data science guru is giving me a thumbs up, so I'm doing well. That's a yeah. Any other question, or we can call it a date? It's all. I mean, I think we are still within schedule. We started but 9 my time, so the plan is to go 9 to 11. So we have 7. So we've been here. Oh yeah, Adedipe Amola Israel. Please go ahead. Our machine learning enthusiasts. I believe it should be a guru now. By the way, data science and machine learning, they are almost like, for me, I believe they are like the same because there are gradations on this thing. Data analysis, data science, then data science, if I can say data science stroke machine learning, and then you can talk about data architecture, data engineering, and all of these things are going like that. Okay, Adedipa, is it that you have a question? I see your hands up, or is it your hand up? Okay. Yeah, I guess we are done then. If nobody else has something to say. So watch out for if you didn't come early, no problem. We have this recorded, so it's going to go on the YouTube channel. So I'm going to send the link to everybody who did not come early enough, or who and even people who missed it. Like at the end of the day, 70 people signed up for this. Now we have 19. That's a nice one, because most of them tell you that if 70 people signed up, that probably 10% will show up. So I was expecting 7, so we have double of that, almost triple. Lovely. So thank you for everybody for coming. Paul Ola Sheile, Adedipe Adam Damola Israel, Mrs. Faduba, thanks for being here. Dale Ocholi, I believe that is an Idoma person right there. I mean, be wrong. Omoja Rabi, that's Professor Bodulos. Leader Shijuade Adeyeye. Then Oluwagbenga Fakonye. Omonwumi, I don't know your surname, so I don't know. Ayotomi Oluwa Sheun. Jesu Oluwa Sheun. Lovely. Good to have you here. Jimetoke Ndeyanu. Are you the Shell or Chevron guy? Then there's Taiwo Elizabeth Adeyinka. Yeah, she's pivoting into data science. So just keep at it. Things are getting better. Oguyemi Promise, thanks for being here. Adegoke Owosheni. Monsieur Kipa Francais, thanks for coming. Bukola, I don't know your surname. Most times I try to, it's easier for me to recognize you when your surname is attached. Read one, my Baba of mathematics. Good to have you. Joshua and Helping Stone. We have a Helping Stone in the house. So we are all getting help by God's grace. So don't forget, subscribe to my YouTube channel, share it. I want to push it to 500 subscribers, if possible, within the next 2 days. Thank you. See you next time. So I hope to come up with this as often as possible. I've been very silent in the group all this while, but I think as questions arise, we may have to have this more often than before. So thanks for coming. See you another time. Bye. Bye, bye, bye. Thanks for coming.